After waiting for the extended server maintenance to end, I was finally able to log in and begin the Act 2 Week 1 quest chain. The first step returns us to the Dreadnought in order to complete the new activity, the Court of Blades. This step is flavored by a quote from Eris, which doesn't really make sense with what I know, so perhaps Sloane is just invoking her name for the cause, or I'm just reading too much into this. Oryx takes on a temporal form and welcomes us to his remixed arena. He is insistent in his sword logic and views his sister's actions as heretical. Since we slayed him, he wishes for us to take his place. Of course, other Hive have the same goal. This activity kills two birds with one stone, as we can eliminate the competition while proving ourselves to the echo of the Navigator. While I clear the ads, you can hit that like button. Sloane encourages us to follow his lead, as she intends for us to collect shards of the Willbreaker to reach Eris. I assume that the Willbreaker is Oryx's sword, which I didn't even know was broken, but sure. The whole we need to reach Eris part does come completely out of left field though. Drifter was upset enough when he left us at the end of Act 1. Even when we met up with Sloane in the Dreaming City, she didn't mention anything that would have led us to believe otherwise. There wasn't even a proper introduction to this week's quest, just, yep, here we are. While confusing, I think the answer to the situation is quite simple, and that this quest step is just in the wrong order, as it should be the second instead of the first. We'll get into why like a couple seconds. As for the activity itself, we are able to read some of the augmentations that will pervade throughout the run. I initially thought you would have to choose one, but instead the flame indicates which ones can be active, so this is just a neat feature that informs you how to solve the mechanic, so you're less confused during gameplay. In order to start the run, everyone stands in a circle before taking a portal to a distant location. Here we just need to slay a boss and some ads. When we return, we can purchase armaments with the runes that are earned from completing the augmentation challenges. During the run, Sloane dubbed this process as the High War and pondered on its purpose. Oryx was the Taken King, but since he wants us to take his place, he would have instructed the ones he controls have targeted Eris. This probably eliminates him from the list of suspects while drawing attention back to the murder mystery element. Savathun and Zivu Arath are the next obvious choices, but I wouldn't be surprised if the identity who did so will be some sort of plot twist. Upon completion of the activity, Sloane reminds us that we should be wary of the taken energies. Sure, whatever you say. The entire activity took me 15 minutes and 28 seconds, which is pretty much what I predicted. We ended up defeating 10 challengers and 15 mini-bosses. Our pace seemed pretty good, but I do wonder how much faster you can really go. My supposition for why I think that Step 1 really should have been Step 2 becomes a bit more clear upon reading the message Ghost has for us when it comes to Step 2. Sloane has received reports of a strange rift accompanied by a woman's voice appearing in the Nether. She's skeptical, but wants it investigated. From Sloane. Guardian, I've seen unsettling reports file in from the Dreadnought. Every other gun I send in comes back with some horror story about a Hive ritual or some taken manifestation acting weird. Normally, I wouldn't give any attention to paranormal occurrences on a Hive ship. We've both seen enough to know that the paranormal is normal with them. But the reports cite a woman's voice. Human. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, so check this out quietly. If it's nothing, or just Tolan screwing with us, fine. But if someone's trying to contact us for real, you find them. Just knowing that Eris is alive from Act 1 makes who this voice belongs to pretty obvious, but the fact that the previous quest step is now basically confirmed to have been an instruction from Eris, along with the fact that Sloane mentioned her here, it's not exactly a mystery. We return to the Dreadnought through the Nether. I pick up some taken osseous fragments which are conveniently marked for us on the minimap, and to my surprise, some of the encounters have been refreshed. The osseous fragments are now here in the Nether due to us acquiring the Barodiad, which we did from completing the exotic mission, the Realize. The dev stream made it sound like the Nether refresh was only going to happen in Act 3, so I wonder if the encounters will switch between the two versions, or if that will be the Act 3 refresh. I assume that there is some more reason for this change, and we're fighting, a different squadron of Oryx's Taken, Legion, or maybe we're fighting some of Zivurat's Taken or whatever, but I don't think any of the bosses have changed, so I think the Taken were just boarding, so it's schedules or something. After reaching the Founts, I find the first rift in reality, and it's pretty audibly from Eris. Surely someone could have just recorded this and sent Sloane the MP3. Eris mentions the Ascendant Plane and assembling Oryx's power in the second rift. Oryx speaks to us. He condemns his past sentimentality for being the reason He came to our system as revenge for killing his son was what he considers a waste of his logic. Since the Echo of the Navigator was formed from the memories of when he first crafted the Dreadnought, this Oryx was probably more in his prime than when we defeated him. Perhaps there are powers he has that we don't know about. I can interact with the Final Rift. Eris is the most audible here, but my completion of the Nether ends up triggering Oryx's voice lines, so he speaks over Eris. Based on the context clues, I assume that this was where she specifically mentions for us to collect the shards needed to recreate Willbreaker. Oryx expresses his disappointment in himself and his sister. He alludes to Zivu being afraid, but it's not super clear if it's of killing him or of her dying, both of which are heretical to the sword logic though. We return to the shaping slab. Sloan has commanded for a system-wide sweep in order to track down every shard of Willbreaker. Oh, and apparently Drifter is just back and has been working with Ikora. I guess because we got his personal message where he literally walked off screen as a hologram, it felt like a big deal, but I guess he returned to us as soon as he reached post-nut clarity. In any case, it is now our time to contribute, and there are a couple of quests that will allow us to obtain some shards. We only need to complete 2 of them for now, so there is some choice in how we want to approach the task. The Prophecy Shard just requires us to defeat one of the Prophecy bosses, or a bunch of powerful Taken. The first boss was a disaster when I first ran the dungeon, but now that I'm a bit more familiar with it, and the whole process, on normal difficulty, it should be fine. The Realm Shard just needs us to kill some mini-bosses throughout the Cosmodrome, so that's the second shard I opted to obtain. Go watch my first time blind clear of Prophecy. It's a banger and explains the entire encounter and dungeon if you care. Of course, my first attempt at the boss went exactly like you would expect. I do one phase the Echo the next time around, thanks to Delicate Tomb providing me with enough, more than enough, ionic traces. The expressions of many are marked on the map and are patrol level enemies, so they're just reload. We return to the Drifter, who is back in the tower, not like he actually left his spot though. He officially hands us our extracted Prophecy Shard from the boss. From the Shaping Slab, we obtain the Realm Shard. Orcs let us know that this shard contained the broken will of Akka. This prompts a conversation between Asa, a proto-worm bonded with Sloan, and Oryx. She tries to plead with Oryx, referencing his past life as Arash and how the witness lied to them. Oryx disregards her entirely as the form he takes exists in the here and now, detached from what was and focused on what is to become a boss. Before focusing on the quest this unlocked, I take a detour to complete the quest with Path of Ambition. This was unlocked when I picked up the Marked Worm in the Court of Blades. Eris fully speaks us. The call from the deep was not for any of us, but instead a beacon of want and purpose from an entity that inhabits the deep. Is this a being that we know of, or a new face entirely? Were they the one who ordered the hit on Eris? This mission has us revisiting the areas we explored in the exotic mission Derealize. The process is conveniently expedited though. The door we seal has been corrupted with Taken Blights. Unraveling the seal tears us into a different dimension. However, as we approach the thresholds, we are torn back. Following our ambitions leads us into a blighted cyst, where we can embrace them. We defeat the ads and withstand the corruption, furthering our control over the Taken energies. Back at Eris's flat, there is a new sphere that shapes the slab according to the path we wish to travel. This also has the effect of inverting the colors. I'm not sure if this is representative of light paracausal energies instead of dark paracausal energies, but it seems like it should be. Interacting with the slab also completes the questline for now. As we start the Renascence mission, we return to the Nether as the Drifter contacts us. He came back as soon as possible because he realized we didn't actually have anywhere to go. He's also been filled in on the whole Eris situation. The rattling of chains indicates the existence of a forge within the founts. We insert a shard into the forge and call upon the local Taken in order to farm them for fuel. These congeal into some crystals which explode into high rune upon destruction. Luckily, we don't need to keep track of the specific symbol. The Taken energies overflow the forge and result in us having to disarm the orb before falling back to the designated cover spot. The animation of the bomb going off and the forge being powered is clean and visually neat. This is also, I guess, a pretty cool mechanic. Like the third time, it was a little bit dicey at the end there. We repeat this action 3 times. The blade is forged but unstable. We are able to build upon its energy by using it to prove our sword logic against Warden Horodai. We enter the Hall of Souls, and in order to stoke our spirits, Drifter goes for his best Eris impression by conjuring her arcane dialogue style.
You are the one who wounds. You are the blade undulled. Damn it, Tolan. She is the blade unforgotten. She is the deep-scoured, vengeance-fed, deathless. Oh, hell, just kill something with the damn sword.
I mean, I guess it was a decent attempt, to be honest. Ayat. Drifter lets us know that Eris was the hive god of vengeance, so we slay the creatures in her name.
Cut into the rift, Guardian! Cut the space between!
Eris! Do it, Guardian! I'm on my way!
Traveling the rift takes us to Eris's flat, the noiseless chantry in Eris's throne world. He or she confirms what we pretty much assumed. Honestly, if they were going to make us reunite with Eris soon, I don't really understand why they needed to show her not dead in Act 1. I guess they didn't want to mislead us, but I actually don't know why they wouldn't want to. Drifter doesn't have anything to say, but he and Eris hold hands, which speaks volumes. We inform Eris of the return of the Taken King. She responds with a pre-rendered trailer that exists to look epic and to act as hype material.
I formed my throne with the stroke of a sword, as the hive gods did long ago. Their tribute and blood coalesced into worlds. You have seen Oryx's throne, his dreadnought, his court, what he called the High War. Here, the memory of the Taken King recognizes his equal, his killer, his heir, you. But his sisters will come to claim him, as brother and as instrument of power. Zevul Arath was sundered from her throne as she was sundered from her siblings. She would retake it all and return to their path of death and conquest. While Savathun in her high coven, having claimed the light, wishes to escape. Both the vows made to the worms and the lie that drove the siblings to that bargain. But their designs will be unmade. Their desires, their undoing. I name my throne the High Heresy, formed in opposition to the Hive. Here I am Heresiarch. Here I am Jailer. For my throne will be Oryx's prison.
The tidbit about how the throne worlds are named was interesting, and the fact that she notes that her throne world will be a prison for Oryx kind of indicates to me that he isn't actually just going to go away. We return to the shaping slab. Eris plans on using the Willbreaker to drag Oryx from the Echo's hold and to bind him to her throne world. His sword will allow us to access unparalleled travel capabilities in the Ascendant Plane. This is in opposition to Sloane's plan of us wielding the sword to just destroy Oryx and the Echo. A dangerous yet enticing plan. Funnily enough, I feel like Oryx might have more an issue with Eris's plan than us just destroying him. Week 1 of Act 2 ends with a short message from the Drifter. He's basically all good now and is off finding shards for the Willbreaker. Well, that was pretty quick. All in all, this was a pretty good start to Act 2. Aside from the odd mission order at the beginning, I think my only story issue is what I mentioned earlier about us being shown Eris and her throne world in Act 1, since it feels like we didn't really get the time to miss her. I guess they didn't want to overplay her death and then extend that out, but I mean, that has to be the reason. Like, what else? Well, I don't know what other reason there could be. The question of who controlled the dread that killed her still remains.